What is happening, everyone? Welcome back to another action-packed edition of CPA Reviewed, the official podcast of Another71.com. As always, I'm your humble host, Jeff Elliott, a licensed CPA in the state of Kansas, by the grace of God and to the chagrin of many. Welcome to episode 83. Now, if you want to be on the podcast, you can go to Another71.com and click in the upper nav, Ask the Ninjas, and it will appear in a future edition of the podcast. If you want to jump to the front of the line, go to join Ninja Monthly, and Ninja Monthly members get priority responses to their questions and get them answered first. All right, so let's get to it. Ninja Monthly member Jocelyn writes in, just curious, I just started studying for auditing. I'm 3 credits away from 150 hours and 6 months away from my master's degree. I chose auditing as my first section just randomly. I've somewhat mapped out an 8-week study plan for each section. Is this enough time per section? If so, is there a certain number of pages in the book I should be reading each day while taking intense notes? And when should I start doing my MCQ? I understand I do the MCQ after I finish reading the book, but how soon before planning to sit for the exam? Okay, under an 8-week study plan, so 8 weeks is probably excessive for auditing, but let's use 8 weeks as an example. So if you follow the Ninja framework, nail the concepts, take intense notes, nonstop MCQ, just rewrite your notes, and then it all comes together in a final review. So the nail the concepts phase is you are reading your Ninja book. And so over an 8-week plan, I would nail the concepts and take intense notes, spend 2.5 weeks reading the Ninja book, and then spend another 2.5 weeks doing the nonstop MCQ, and then spend a week just rewriting your notes, and then spend 2 weeks as your final review. So 2.5 weeks for the concepts, 2.5 weeks for the MCQ, so that's 5 weeks. 1 week to rewrite your notes, that's 6 weeks, and then 2 weeks for your final review. So if you have 2.5 weeks to get through the book, let's say the book has 500 pages, give or take, well, you're going to have to take 500 pages divided by how many study nights are you going to do over 2.5 weeks? So let's say 12 study nights. So 500 divided by 12, whatever that number is. I can't do that in my head. So, and that's really how you budget it, how you keep on pace. The most important thing is to stay on pace. Staying on pace is more important than getting every little detail down. Just like on the actual exam. If you're in question 3 and you can't get some calculation to come out and it's driving you nuts, you have to pick B or C and move on. And because you can't nitpick it and just stare at the screen for an hour, because it's going to cost you later on your simulations. And so, yeah, you might get that question wrong, but you're going to get a lot more, or you're going to miss a lot more questions down the road because you spent so much time on that one question. The same thing with your study material. If you get bogged down on a topic, just skim it, take whatever notes you can, and keep moving forward. So, you have over the 2.5 weeks, you have 12 days, 12 nights to get through the book, and then you're done. It's closed. You set it aside, figuratively, because it's a PDF. And then that's how you do it. And then 2.5 weeks on the MCQ, take your notes, boom, keep going. Just rewrite your notes. I mean, you have to keep moving forward, keep a good steady pace, and however many weeks you do, you have to make sure that you budget your time and allow enough time for each phase. It's okay to, like, if you feel like you took shortcuts in the nail the concepts phase, the very first phase, it's okay because you can make up for it in the MCQ, because with each MCQ question, it's an opportunity to learn why this question is right, or why this answer option is right, and why the other 3 are wrong, and then reading the answer explanation and taking notes there. So your MCQ phase will help pick up the slack. Ninja Monthly member Victoria writes in, Jeff, what's with the new BEC CASO ERM framework? Is it a big deal? No, it's not a big deal. Now here's why. The new ERM framework for CASO, it is a principles-based approach. So it's not like it supersedes the previous enterprise risk management stuff. It basically simplifies it, and makes it more principles based. So the principles are still the same. It just lays out like the 5 components. Now, here's the deal. When the AICPA says that something is eligible for testing, what does that mean? It means that, okay, this new thing came out and it's now eligible to be tested on the exam because it passed the 6-month time frame or whatever. And so it's usually 6 months after the effective date or the enactment date, whichever is later. So typically that happens with tax law. Tax law is effective January 1st, and so the CPA exam typically tests it in July, 6 months after the effective date. Now, it was enacted maybe a lot later or a lot earlier, but it's whichever date is later. Now, with this new ERM framework, so yes, it exists, and yes, technically, it could be tested on the CPA exam. Do I think that you'll get a bunch of new ERM questions about this framework? I don't, because they're principles based, and it's kind of hard to like write questions. I mean, these aren't calculations. So, and again, it doesn't supersede the previous stuff. It just builds a framework, a more principles based approach to ERM. And for CPA exam purposes, I don't think this new ERM framework is a big deal. Ninja Monthly member Carrie writes in, I've been with my current public accounting firm for almost 12 years. I started out as an administrative assistant. I went back to school and got my bachelor's in accounting. I have 147 hours due to changing my major a few times. Seriously, who knows what they want to be out of high school? So now I am a senior tax accountant. I passed one part of the CPA exam, came really close on a bunch of other parts, and then lost it. So I started over. I currently have one part passed again, and I have until June 2019 to pass. I decided to take a position in a construction company as a project accountant. Here's the question. In Pennsylvania, I am required to have 1 year experience, I believe. Will the firm I am with now be required to sign off on my experience? I know I still need 3 more credits, but I'm worried about the experience part. Thanks. Okay, so every state board of accountancy is different. So do they require your experience to be signed off by someone who is a currently licensed CPA, or is it someone who used to be a licensed CPA and now they've let their license lapse, but they were at one point a licensed CPA and can sign off on your experience? Every state is different because, like, let's face it, if you work in industry, and so there are a lot of large publicly traded companies who have Big Four alums as their CFO, controller, and accounting manager, etc. And here's the deal. Now, I know that everyone is excited to pass the CPA exam, and they want to keep their, of course, that's my certificate, it's not my license, but I am currently licensed, and the reason why I do that is so I can hold myself out as a CPA, and because it's relevant for what I do. But when you've done the public accounting thing and you put in your time and you want to just hang out in industry and not hold yourself out as a CPA anymore, a lot of people don't keep their license active because, let's face it, 80 years of CPE a year, or 80 hours of CPE a year. No, 80 hours of CPE every 2 years. I'm going to get comments in the video, Jeff, you're drunk. Every 2 years, you have to have 80 hours of CPE. There you go. It's a drag. CPE is boring. CPE is expensive. CPE is inconvenient. And I could easily argue that it doesn't really add a lot of value, because if you work in public accounting and all you do is tax returns, like you know about taxes and you know about current tax law, because if you don't know about current tax law and if you mess up someone's return, then you're liable. So, but anyway, let's not get off on a CPE soapbox tangent. A lot of people, managers in industry, they don't have their license current. And so if your experience requirement has to be signed off by someone who has a current license, that could be a problem for you. So here's the answer to your question. You need to call the Pennsylvania State Board of Accountancy and ask specifically for the director and tell them about your situation and find out who can sign off on your experience requirement. Now, the Pennsylvania Board of Accountancy likely on their website says exactly what the requirements are, so maybe you save yourself a phone call. But I think it's probably a good idea to call them and then follow them up with an email saying, hey, thank you for your time on the phone, just so that I understand exactly what you said. This is what I heard you say, and if they respond, yeah, that's exactly right, then you have it in writing. So later on down the road, if you have an issue come up, you have it in writing. But every board of accountancy is different. So, when I had to get my experience requirement signed off, I believe the person who signed off on my experience was currently licensed, and I don't quite remember what Kansas's rules were. But anyway, I was good to go. I had the experience covered either way. But I would do your due diligence, check out the regs on your State Board of Accountancy, follow up with a phone call to the State Board of Accountancy, and then that way you have all of your bases covered. Ninja Monthly member Jocelyn says, I cannot grasp which rate to use in the foreign currency questions. Sometimes it is the spot rate, sometimes it is the 30-day or 90-day rate. Any tips on how to remember this? Okay, if you run a US-based company and some of your inputs come internationally, so you are a US-based automobile manufacturer and you buy spark plugs from Europe. And if you say, hey, I need 100,000 spark plugs and I'm going to buy them right now, well, and the spark plugs are denominated in like euros, well, the price today is the spot rate. The exchange rate today is the spot rate. Hey, I'm going to buy this and then I'm going to pay my bill like pretty quickly. So use the spot rate. But if you're like, you know what, 3 months from now, I need to buy 100,000 spark plugs or 400,000 ball bearings or whatever, and I'm going to pay for it 3 months from now, and I know that I can afford the price today, but who knows what's going to happen in 3 months from now. War could break out or something crazy, tariffs. And so I'm going to enter into a futures contract. And so that's how you know. On the CPA exam, if they're asking about something like accounts payable, something that you're going to pay pretty quickly, use the spot rate. If you're going to pay a bill like later on down the road, use the forward rate. So that's a simplistic explanation, but I hope that's helpful for exam purposes. Ninja Monthly member Corey writes in, on MCQ question, this is FAR 1417, it states that service cost is a component of compensation expense, not net periodic cost. Isn't the S in Prius for service cost? Doesn't Prius represent net periodic pension cost? Okay, so this is confusing, and I am partially to blame here. So on the Ninja Notes, I have the net periodic pension cost and the acronym Prius. Now, part of Prius is the service cost, but part of the new rules is that service cost is now has to be lumped in with compensation costs because they want it to be included with your operating income, because previously companies could just stick it wherever they wanted to on the income statement and not have to disclose where the components went, and so they could use it to pad their operating results, and they can't do that anymore. So while service cost is a part of your pension cost, really what the question is, it comes down to how do you disclose it on the income statement and the service cost. So the service cost is as your current employees work, then the current amount of their salary that will be later included in your pension cost, that is your service cost. And so you have to include it with other compensation types of expenditures on the income statement. And so with your pension expense, so on a FAR question about pensions, if you see service cost and then all of the other line items that have to do with pensions, just remember that if they ask you about net periodic benefit cost, then what they are testing you to see is, does this candidate know to remove service cost from pension cost? Because it's a new rule. So exclude service cost from the net periodic benefit cost on a CPA exam question, because it's actually part of compensation expense, which is part of operating income. Ninja Monthly member Justin writes in, how drastically is the reg section going to change? I'm trying to decide which section of the exam to take next. I have already studied for regulation and got a 69. I'm not sure if it's best to try to pass regulation now before the exam changes or wait until after. Any thoughts would be helpful. Okay, so what Justin is asking is about the Trump tax laws, and they are not testable on the CPA exam in 2018, thankfully. And so they will be eligible January of 2019. So any changes that are testable in July will be pretty minimal. And so there's still some question as to what changes get lumped in as part of the Trump tax laws. So estate tax, threshold, things like that. So does that get lumped in with the estate or with the Trump tax laws, or is that just a normal part of? So every year the CPA exam updates its Section 179 expense and estate tax thresholds, things like that. The regulation exam typically doesn't test on just withholding amounts and things like that, because that's just too in the weeds for the CPA exam. And so it will be interesting to see as we get more clarification heading into July exams, June-July exams, so that the CPA review providers can make sure that their materials are updated. But the July regulation updates are not going to be a big deal. January 2019 regulation changes are going to be a big deal, so stay tuned. Ninja Monthly member Ryan says, I've now passed all 4 sections, just not in the 18-month window. I've been there. I lost credit to FAR. I also lost my FAR credit, and I'm planning on retaking it in the next window. Regarding the use of the MCQ software, would you recommend finishing all the questions by section first and then moving into the adaptive learning section, or would you recommend just starting with the adaptive learning section and moving on from there? Yeah, I'm a big fan of working the questions by topic, so drilling down by topic, taking notes by topic, and then later on just letting the questions, letting the software feed you the questions as they see fit based on how you've been doing. So yeah, that's what I do. Drill down by topic first, and then let the adaptive learning feed you the random questions. Ninja Monthly member Candace writes in, hey Jeff, I hope you're doing well. I started my FAR journey using Ninja, and I absolutely love it so far. I just have one quick question. I did not get the greatest foundation of accounting in college, and I know that the CPA requires a strong understanding of accounting. What is your best advice for me to bridge that gap and grasp and build a stronger foundation to successfully pass the CPA exam? If you feel like that you don't have a strong accounting foundation, that's okay. Because, the average age of a CPA candidate is 29. Now think back. When do most people graduate with their undergrad in accounting? 22, 23? Okay, so that's like 5 or 6 years. Is that right? Yeah, 5 or 6 years. Where, let's say that you didn't work in accounting that you didn't work in general ledger accounting for 5 or 6 years, like you might have forgotten a lot of it. And let's say that you went off and did taxes only. Well, if you only focus on taxes, then you get kind of rusty on just the general accounting stuff, journal entries, and all that. So if you feel like that you didn't get the greatest accounting foundation, that's okay. That's where your CPA review course comes in. Now, there's plenty of great CPA review courses out there, a lot of great videos. So hopefully your instructor videos help to walk you through that. But since you're a ninja, you have the Ninja book. And the Ninja book, it covers all of the concepts without like throwing a phone book at you. So, we covered 500 pages. That takes other companies like 1,000 pages. And it's because they throw all the FASBs and everything else that you don't care about in there. Foundationally, if you read so in your case, foundationally, read the Ninja book, and you might have to go through it a little bit more slowly, but reading the Ninja book, taking notes, and then Ninja MCQ, then listening to the Ninja audio like nonstop, you will be just fine. Ninja monthly member Andrew writes in, "Hello, I've come up with a random number as to how much I should study in an 8-week period to pass each section. How does 5,000 plus Ninja MCQ and then rewrite the Ninja notes 5 times and listen to the audio 20 times in an 8-week period sound? I've been on this journey a long time and want to pass this year." Okay. Listening to the Ninja audio sound 20 times sounds like a nightmare to me. Okay. So I think doing 1,000 to 2,000 MCQ like per exam is plenty. And I mean, that's like doing each question one time with some repeats. Rewriting the Ninja notes 5 times, I would rewrite them 1 time in the J, just rewrite it phase. That should take about a week. Listen to the Ninja audio 20 times. Yeah, if you can do it, but let's shoot for 5 times. So, okay, maybe 8 times over an 8-week study period. So listen to it once per week, like during your commute. But I think if you do 5,000 MCQ and rewrite the Ninja notes 5 times and listen to the audio 20 times, you are just going to hate life. I think there's a happy balance there. So 1,000 to 2,000 MCQ, rewrite the notes 1 time, listen to the Ninja audio 8 times. That sounds like an excellent plan of attack. Ninja monthly member Elver writes in, "How could I maximize my time with this schedule for BEC? My test date is in 26 days. I wake up at 5 a.m. and I catch a 6 a.m. train. The train ride lasts 1.5 hours with a 30-minute walk to work. Work gets done at 4:30 with a 30-minute walk to the train. Train ride is an hour and 10 minutes home. Eat dinner at 6:15 and then study the rest of the night until around 10 p.m. I still need to sleep." I bet you do. Okay, so you wake up at 5, you catch a 6 a.m. train, and in the morning, the train ride lasts 1.5 hours. Let's be realistic. You're not going to study the entire 1.5 hours. You're going to check Facebook, whatever. So, but you can get an hour in the morning. And then the 30-minute walk to work, you can listen to the Ninja audio. And then the 30-minute walk back to work, you can listen, or back to the train, you can listen to the Ninja audio. And then the train ride home for an hour, you can study. And then at night, study an hour. So let's walk through this. On the train, just follow your study programs, your study plan. So you're a Ninja monthly member, you're reading through the Ninja book, watching the Ninja Plus videos, whatever. Whatever phase you're in, nail the concepts, nonstop multiple choice questions, because you can use your phone and your laptop and tether. And so if you're working through the multiple choice questions, you just do it on the train. So basically, you are studying on the train versus studying at your kitchen table. So whatever you're doing, whatever someone would normally do studying at the kitchen table, you were doing it on the train. And so it makes no difference there. The real advantage to you with the 30-minute walk to your office from the train and then back to the train is you can still study. So that time isn't wasted just listening to music or whatever. You can still get an hour of study in every day just walking, listening to the Ninja audio, and if you listen to it like repeatedly, it adds up. So at the end of each day, so if you eat dinner at 6:15, and then let's say you start studying from 7 at night until 8 at night, you've put in 4 hours of study time a day, and that doesn't take into account any study time that you do at lunch or even at your desk, because we all know that sometimes we sneak study time at our desk. So that's 4 hours per day. I would call it good. Do that 5 days a week, and you've easily put in your 20 hours. So while it seems like you're at a disadvantage being on the train, you could also look at it like you have an advantage as long as you don't give into the temptation to just check Facebook for an hour and just totally waste the time. So if you're intentional with your time, studying 2 hours on the train and an hour, so 30 minutes to work and 30 minutes back to the train, and then an hour at night, you put in your 4 hours and do that over 5 nights, and you put in your full 20 hours of study time per week. All right, well, that does it for this episode of the podcast. If you want to be on the show, go to another71.com. Click in the upper nav, ask the ninjas, and your question will appear in a featured edition of the podcast. If you want to jump to the front of the line, become a Ninja monthly member, super cheap, $67 a month. You get all Ninja materials, MCQ book, notes, audio, MCQ audio, flashcard app, and you get priority response to your questions. So until next time, be good, everyone. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.